Hi everyone! Welcome to my channel. My name is Ivy, and in today's video I will be showing you step by step how to create your first low content journal on KDP using Canva. And I will be sharing with you some tips and tricks that will hopefully make the creation of your first low content journal a breeze. So make sure you stay until the end so you don't miss any of it. And if you haven't already done so, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Let's assume that we want to create a cute animal composition notebook with the following specs. We'll make the book dimension 7.5 by 9.25, which is a very common size for a lot of notebooks. In terms of number of pages, we'll make it 110 pages. Binding, let's make it paperback as opposed to hardcover. And we'll have black and white interior pages, which is the case for most low content books. So these are very important specs, and just remember that each time before you start creating a new book, you should already have decided on these specs. This is because you will require them as inputs in order to generate the correct book cover size and interior margins for your book. You definitely wouldn't want to start designing and then realize your margins are all off and it won't print properly later. The first step you want to take is to head into KDP Cover Calculator. I will include the link below this video just so you can easily reference it later. So basically this is where you would want to enter all the specs that we have decided on earlier, like the number of pages, the size of the book. And once we have all this information in the form, it will basically help us generate a book cover template which we can use in Canva later. So let's go ahead and start putting in the information. So binding type is paperback. Interior type is black and white. Paper type, we usually pick white paper. Page turn direction, do left to right, which is most common. Measurement units, inches, and interior trim size. We had decided earlier that we want to make our notebook 7.5 by 9.25 inches, so we're going to click on that. Page count is 110. Okay, so once we have all this information put in here, we're going to click the Calculate Dimensions button, which will generate this showing all the measurements of the book based on the specs we put in. But what we really want is to come to Download Template here and click on that. And once we do that, it will generate a zip file with 3 files within. And the file that we really want is this PNG file in the middle. If you open it up, you will see this. This is basically our book cover template, which includes the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. And if you look over here where it says 15.498 times 9.5, this is the overall dimensions of your whole cover, including the front cover, the back cover, and this is the number that you'll actually want to put into Canva later. So now that we have our book cover template generated, let's hop on over to Canva and start designing. Okay, so now I've logged on to my Canva account, and like I mentioned earlier, we will be using Canva to create both the book cover and the interior for a low content journal today. So for those of you who are not familiar with Canva, it is basically a very user-friendly yet powerful online design tool, which has a huge selection of design elements, templates, and features that you can use to pretty much create any sort of creative content you want. It is kind of like PowerPoint on steroids. So if you already have a Canva account, that is awesome. You are all ready to get started. If you don't, not to worry. I have included a link below this video where you can sign up for your Canva account. There are basically 2 options you can sign up for. There's the free account, which doesn't have a time limit, but you don't have access to as many design elements. Or you can sign up for a 30-day free trial of the Pro account where you will have access to basically Canva's entire library of design elements and features. And after the 30-day trial period, you can then decide if you want to pay for it on an ongoing basis, or you can also choose to downgrade back to the free version of the account. Okay, so with that said, let's get started with our designs. So first you would want to click on the Create a Design button, and we're going to go to Custom Size at the bottom. And right here we want to first remember to change it from pixels to inches, and then go back to that cover template that we had generated earlier from KDP and enter these 2 numbers. So it's 15.498 times 9.5. 15.498 times 9.5. And once we have those numbers in there, we want to click Create New Design. and it will take us into a page where we can start designing. So first, what we want to do is go back to that cover template that we had generated earlier, copy it, and paste it right in here. Make sure it fills the whole page, and it should technically fit exactly because that's how we created the size of our page here as well. So now that we have this is important because we want to make sure none of our designs go out into the red lines, go into the spine, or go behind the barcode. Like, we definitely don't want any text going behind the barcode because it's going to be covered anyways. So this helps us make sure our design keeps within the margins and won't get cut off during printing. So what we want to do is come over to Elements, and how this works is it's actually really user-friendly within Canva. You can just search for literally anything you want to find. So for example, I want to find dog. You'll see dog, and you can even filter by photos, graphics. Videos is not really relevant in our case for book covers, but like graphics, you can scroll down and there's so many different ones to pick from. You can choose, I don't know, sloth. Really cool. Earlier I mentioned about the free account and the pro account. So basically, free account will have access to all of these elements that don't have that little crown. And for the elements that have a little crown, only pro account users will have access to them. Okay, so let's start creating. So in the interest of time, I've actually kind of pre-selected some of the images that I want to use for this notebook that we're going to be doing today. Let's start off by adding the background for a book cover. So this is the one that I had selected. But for backgrounds, similarly, you can just search for them under Elements, and there's a lot of variety to choose from. So now I want to drag it out to fill the whole book cover. That looks good. And then the next thing I want to do is come up to this little checkered box button and click on it, and that will bring the transparency of that new layer down so that I can still see through and see the margins behind on that template. Okay, so the next thing we can do is the fun part where we can start dragging in individual design elements to design our book cover. So let's start by bringing in the sloth. Let's put it here. We can bring in a raccoon. Bring him in as well. And just play around with it, see what looks good. Add a tiger, you got the bottom. Okay, and then maybe we should add some things on the back cover as well. So we can add a giraffe. And in this case, you can see either I can put it above the barcode if you don't want his legs cut off, but I mean, his legs are pretty long. I'm okay with it cut off a little bit, so I'm actually going to put it behind the barcode right there, so I know part of it will be covered by the barcode, but that's okay. And then maybe I'll add this bear with the balloon. Bring it here. So in this case, you see that the balloon is kind of covering the giraffe a bit. So what I want to do is actually flip this bear around so that the balloon is on this side as opposed to that side. So I'm going to click on him, come up to flip, and say flip horizontal. And there we go. This looks better. Okay, and there's a bit of space here. Let me see. Maybe I'll add a leaf behind the giraffe. Maybe put it this, angle it this way. Okay, and I think that's pretty good. So now what I want to do is actually add some colors along the spine so it looks good, because then you can see the color from both the front and the back cover. So I'm gonna go to Elements, grab a square, and then which I'll turn into a rectangle. So when you put it over, just make sure that it's aligned such that there's the same amount of color on this side versus on that side. And you also want to make sure, you know, these elements are not covered too much. So okay, that looks okay. And I'm going to change the color of the spine. So we can change it to anything. We can use an eyedropper if you'd like to pick from one of these animals' colors so that you know it's going to match. Or you can just pick your own color, which I think I'm going to do in this case. So maybe I'll pick this one. Looks nice. And now you see that we've added that some of these elements are covered, so we need to just shift them over a little bit. And same with the giraffe. Leaf. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to add a little box here that says composition notebook, and it includes some details about the book size as well as the number of pages, which is quite common for a lot of composition notebooks that I've seen. So let's come down here and grab a shape. So I'm going to grab this one, shrink it down a little bit, and put it right around here. And I'm going to change the color. I think I'm going to change the inside to white. And then the border, I'll change it to match the spine. So I'm going to make it this color. Okay, and so now we want to add text. So to add text, we come to the left-hand side menu where it says text. Click on that. And you can see that there's a lot of different, font designs and pre-designed styles. You can use those, or you can just come up here and grab a regular text box and then just change the font yourself manually. And that's what I'm going to do. So composition notebook. I'm going to bring it here. I want to change the font. Okay, I'll change it to this one, bold it, and then shrink it down so that it fits. Okay, so I'm gonna place it so that it's centered. And then what I'm gonna do is add 2 lines just to show that it's a line journal. I'm gonna bring the line here, make it shorter. Okay, and then duplicate it. And the thing is, I feel like the line's a bit too thick, so I'm gonna come up here to line style, bring down the line weight from 5 to 1, and it'll be a thinner line. Much better. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to just copy and paste this. And then I'm going to add the size of the book, which is, I believe, 7.5 times 9.25 inches and 110 pages. I'm going to shrink that down as well so it fits. And there we go. So let's bring the transparency back. And I think that looks good enough. Of course, you can still add a bit more or shift things around, but for illustration purposes, I think this looked pretty decent. So let's say we're happy with this. So now what we want to do is to export this. We want to come up to where it says share, click on that button, come down to the button that says download. Make sure we, in the drop-down menu, pick PDF print. So this is what we need, PDF print, and then click download. Okay, and now you see that it's automatically downloaded. Okay, cool. So now we're done with our book cover. Okay, now let's make the interior of our notebook. So the first step is we want to come to the KDP website. Under their help topics, there's a page that talks about size, bleeds, and margins. So this link I have linked below this video so you can easily reference it when you go ahead and make your interior. So let's scroll down from here, and the section that we need right now is the section under bleed. And so what bleed really means is when we say that the interior has bleed, that means there's a little space around all the lines, the text, the graphics for all of your interior pages. If we say with bleed, that basically means that some of your graphic elements might go to the very edge of the page. So in the context of a line journal, what that means is if we have no bleed, then the lines just go in the middle, but there's going to be a spaced border around the lines. And then if you pick with bleed, then the lines basically go all the way from edge to edge, which is what I prefer because it's more like a traditional notebook, but either one would work. Okay, so what we need from here is once we've decided we want bleed or no bleed, then we come down here. This is Japan, so that's not relevant. So we come down to this one, examples of page size with and without bleed. And what we see here is this will tell us the page size we need to put into Canva. So we did say that we want with bleed, so it'll be this column. And our original size that we wanted was 7.5 by 9.25. So because we picked with bleed, we actually need to input this into Canva instead. So let's go ahead and do that first. So let's come back to Canva. Actually, we will need to come here, create a new design, custom size, and once again change this from pixels to inches, and we put in what we just saw. So 7.625 times 9.5, and then we do create new design. So this will create the template that we need to start making our pages. So we're going to go back to this Amazon page because we're not quite done with it yet. And now we want to go further down to where it says margins. So basically margins is something that we want to bear in mind, because if we don't keep all our content within the margins, it could mean that the content will get cut off when it goes to printing. So in this case, our page number of pages is definitely between 24 and 150 because ours is 110. So this says that the inside gutter margins need to be 0.375 inch. And then because we picked with bleed, so there's no bleed, so we picked with bleed, so this column would be the relevant column for us for the same row. So the outside margins will also need to be 0.375 inch. Okay, so with this information, we're going to head back over to Canva, and we are going to try to create these margins. So how you do that is you see this ruler here. I can basically just hover over it and you'll see those arrows. Bring it over and you will see that starts at 0, the purple number above, and you want to bring it to 0.375 or a little bit bigger than that to be conservative. So 0.34, okay, 0.377, that'll do. And now you want to do similar borders around because we set the inside and the outside margins are all 0.375, so basically it's exactly the same. What I would do is, because if you bring it down like that, you could do it that way as well, so 0.37, kind of hard to get it exact sometimes. So what I do is I come here, I take a square, and then I come over here to make sure it matches, and I continue shrinking it down until it fits right within this first margin that we created, which we know is accurate. Then I just bring it up to everywhere else and create the same margins on all the other sides. So this one was already right. And so I come here, I drag the ruler again, make sure I can see properly. Okay, it's approximately. It's always better to have the margins slightly bigger than smaller. That would be the more conservative approach. And then we bring it from the top, and so you have the bottom margin as well. And once you're done, you can delete the square. So there we go. We have all the margins. So now we can start adding the lines for our notebook. So we'll come to lines and shapes under element, see all, grab a line, and we're gonna drag it out so it's longer. And you see that the line is pretty thick, and we definitely don't want it that thick for our lines in the notebook. So we're gonna come to line style, bring the line weight down from 5 to 1. And then we are also going to bring down the transparency, because most of the time for notebooks, the lines in there are not pure black. They're usually a little grayish, a little lighter. So we're going to bring it down just to make it a bit lighter. Perfect. And so I'm now going to duplicate this, let's say 25 times. So, or make 25 lines. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay. And now what we want to do is highlight all of it and go to position and tidy up. And you see it straightened it all out. So what I want to do now is drag it out so that it's more spaced out. Oops. And there we go. So usually at the top there's a bit more space than the bottom, and usually in notebooks. So I'm gonna just drag it down a little bit more. Okay, that looks okay. Okay, and there you have it. It's actually all the lines that you need. But what we can also do is we can make it a bit more creative. We can come here, find some black and white elements, and let's say I want to add this sheep. Just to make the page a bit cuter, shrink it down, maybe flip it the other way, and then I can put a little birdie on the other side. Or maybe I can have the birdie standing on his head. There. And when you're putting these elements, that's how the margins become really useful. You want to make sure that none of these go out of the margin because potentially they could get cut off during printing. Okay, so I think this page is pretty cute. So what we now need to do is basically duplicate this 110 times because we said there's 110 pages. So we can come over here to this grid view and basically click Control C, copy, and then Control V. Maybe do it 10 times first. And then now select all 10. And then Control C again, and then Control V another 10 times to make 110. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's scroll down and see if we have 110. Perfect, 110 pages. That's pretty cute. Awesome. Okay, so let's say we're happy with this. So we're going to extract this and download it as well. And let's download it. And once again, we have to go to PDF print. You see 110 pages, perfect. Now hit download. Okay, and this is the completed PDF print file that is ready to be uploaded into KDP. So there you have it. We have completed our book interior. So now that we have both the book cover and the interior completed, we can come back to KDP, log in, and if you don't already have a KDP account, you will need to set one up. But so I'm now logged in and we're gonna publish it. So let's click on create here and create paperback. So for language, it is English, so we can just leave it as is. There are other languages to pick from as well, but in our case, English is accurate. Book title. So let's put composition notebook. And then under subtitle, we could be a little bit more descriptive. Let's say cute animals, journal, notebook. We can also add who our target audience is. So in this case, it's for kids. So we can put for kids. And we can add page number and also the size of the notebook itself. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Okay, so now series, this book is not part of a series, so we can leave that alone. There's no edition number. In terms of author name, you could use your own name, or most people use a pen name or a publishing company name that they come up with. Anything is really fine as long as you make sure you don't infringe on anyone's trademarks. So in our case, let's just put Okay, in the description section, we can be as descriptive as we'd like, or we can be as brief as we want to. In the case of a journal notebook, it's a pretty straightforward product, but we can still add a little bit of detail just so the customers know what they're buying. So in our case, maybe we could put something like perfect notebook for school with a cute animal cover that will put a smile on any child's face. We can then add specifications. You can bold that if you want. And then we'll add some bullet points to say 110 pages, 7.5 times 9.25 inches in size. We can also, depending on what cover we want to pick, it could either be glossy or matte. Let's say in our case we want to pick a matte cover. We could put something like durable matte cover. And I'm going to change these back to non-bold. And there we go. You're welcome to make your description a bit more descriptive, but for illustration purposes, I think this should be good for our notebook. Now we're going to move on to publishing rights. It will be this button because we do own the copyright and the necessary publishing rights for the notebook we will be uploading. So keywords is where it potentially gets a bit more complicated because there are so many different tools and methods and approaches out there that people could technically leverage to come up with their 7 keywords. And the idea with the keywords is that you want to pick something that is highly relevant to your product, such that when customers search for that key term, they see your product, they will likely buy it. And you want to search for something that is also not too high in terms of competition. For purposes of this video, I'm going to try to keep things a bit more simple, and I'll show you the most basic method without any tools required. And then I'll probably do a separate video to do a bit of a deeper dive on some of the other methods and tools that you could potentially leverage in the future. So to do this basic method, I would go into an Amazon.com tab, open up an Amazon.com tab, and then think about what are some of the keywords that are relevant to the journal that we made. So let's say we want to try animal composition notebook. So that looks relevant. And in terms of competition, there are over 3,000 results, which is really not that bad. Most of them are above 10K, 20K. So 3,000 is really good. So we'll grab this as one of the keywords. And then let's come back over here, and then you can see in the drop-down menu that Amazon has recommended a few other keywords based on customer searches. So we can add those as well. So animal composition notebook college ruled, animal composition notebook for kids. Animal composition ruled, and animal composition notebook for kids. Then we come back here and think of another relevant term, maybe just animal notebook, and let's see what that looks like. So this is a bit more competitive. See, 10,000 instead of the earlier one was just 3,000, but we'll take this for now, just for illustration purposes. And let's look at the drop down, which ones are relevant. So if animal notebooks for kids, that is relevant. Hardcover is not relevant. Notebook journal is relevant. So we'll take these, this one and this one. So animal notebooks for kids and animal notebook journal. Animal notebook for kids, animal notebook journal. Okay. And we can also try, let's try cute animal notebook. Okay, see, this is really competitive. It seems 60,000 results. So it's not that great, but I'm going to take it anyways just for illustration purposes to fill in the 7th blank. But for you, you can keep looking for a better keyword. So now we need to pick 2 categories that are most relevant to the notebook that we're uploading. So let's expand the categories to see what choices we have. In our case, it's nonfiction, I'd say. And since we're gearing it towards kids, we could probably try this one. Okay, I see animals. And let's see what relevant categories there might be since we have a mix of different animals. We could pick mammals. Let's pick that one. And then now we need to pick a second one. So let's close it out and see what else. So given this is a notebook, maybe we can pick language arts, journal writing. That would work. So let's pick these 2, save it. And now the next question is whether your book classifies any of these types. So the first one's low content book. The second one's large print book, which is not the case for us. But ours is a low content book because it's a journal, notebook, or planner. So we got to check this off. And this question basically asks you whether any of the content in your book is inappropriate for children under 18 years of age, which in our case would be no. And we can save and continue. Now the next page, this is where Amazon asks you if you have an ISBN that you want to include on your book. Otherwise, you can just publish without an ISBN, given ours is a low content book. So we can just leave it at that option. And publication date, I usually just pick today's date. It does take some time after you submit it for it to actually become live because Amazon needs to take up to 72 hours to review your book to make sure there are no issues. Print options, this is usually what we would pick for journals, black and white interior with white paper, so I'll keep it there. Trim size, we have to pick a different size because our journal is not 6x9. It is 7.5 by 9.25, so pick that. Bleed settings, we had said previously that we want it with bleed, so we have to pick bleed. And paperback cover finish, you can pick either matte or glossy. Both are fine. I do find glossy is a bit more durable from fingerprints and dirt and whatnot, but both are technically fine. So in this case, because the description had said matte, so let's just keep it at matte. So in manuscript, here is where you can upload the interior that we had created earlier. So I'm going to my downloads section, upload the interior that we created earlier. Okay, now we can upload our book cover. So we'll come here because we already have a book cover that we created. So come to upload your cover, pick the cover. This we can leave unchecked because our original book cover does not already include a barcode, so we can move on. And then now we can do a quick preview of our book based on what we had just uploaded. This is usually the most exciting part because you can actually see your book kind of coming together. And it could take a couple minutes. And there we go, looking good. So we see that nothing is, so the red border is where you want to make sure nothing is exceeding that boundary. So I think we're doing good. The barcode is here. Okay, so let's look at the inside. So there we have it, our pages that we put in, and they will all be the same up until 110. So I don't think I'll flip through all 110 because they are technically exactly the same. So if we're happy with what we're seeing, then we can click Approve. And in this section, you see a summary of all the specifications of your book and also the printing costs that Amazon would be charging for each book. And this printing cost is really dependent on a number of things. If you pick colored pages, it'll be more expensive. If your page count is higher, it'll be more expensive as well. And obviously hardcover would be a bit more expensive. So all of those things contribute to this printing cost. So in our case, it's $2.17. So let's save and continue. And territories, we can leave it. We have worldwide rights to sell this book. Primary marketplace, Amazon.com is fine, but you can change it depending on where your location is. And here's where we would price our book. So Amazon already indicated to us that the minimum price has to be at least $3.62 with a maximum of $250. I don't think we can justify selling a notebook anywhere close to $250, but what I generally do is price it around the $5 range. That way you'll have a bit over $1 for royalty. So let's say we put $5.49, then you'll get $1.12. Some people can price it for $5.99. Obviously, the lower the price, the more attractive your notebook is going to be to potential customers. So that's something you want to take into consideration as well. You don't want to price it too high such that no one will ever buy it. So I think the $5 range is generally what I do. I've seen people do it in the $4 range as well. You'll still make a bit of royalty, but it'll just be less than $1. So it's really up to you. For this one, I will put it as, let's say, $5.49. And Amazon will automatically populate the prices for the other countries for you as well, but you can also manually edit any of these if you choose to. And here, like I mentioned, it could take up to 72 hours for your book to actually go live because of all the Amazon reviews that need to happen on the back end. So that's awesome. So this pretty much takes us to the end. And we can now click on Publish Your Paperback Book. And there you go, we're done. You've now published your very own KDP low content notebook. And all you need to do now is sit back and relax and wait for approximately 72 hours for your book to actually go live.
So I hope you enjoyed the video and managed to learn something from it. This is actually my first ever YouTube video, so I would love to hear any comments or feedback you might have. And if you haven't already done so, please make sure you give me a like and subscribe to my channel, as I will be posting a lot more KDP publishing related content. And I'll see you next time!